You know, in every great story, there's always that moment. The one where the hero is at their absolute lowest, and it feels like the whole world is just crashing down on them. But what if that feeling wasn't just a single moment in the story? What if it became the entire story? I think we've all been there. That feeling like you're just a character in someone else's comic book, and frankly, the writer is having a really, really bad day. One thing goes wrong, then another, and you start to wonder, wait, am I just cursed? Well, it turns out there's actually a name for this kind of narrative trap. It's a psychological script that a lot of us fall into, and it's called the drama triangle. Think of it like a powerful story that's really compelling, but it keeps its characters stuck on the exact same page day after day. Okay, so every story needs its characters, right? And this one has a very specific cast of three. As we go through them, I want you to think about whether any of these rules sound, well, a little familiar. So first up, we've got our main character, the victim. Now, this isn't just about bad things actually happening to someone, it's about a deep feeling of complete powerlessness. Their internal monologue is just this constant loop of, why me? They truly believe they have zero control over their life, so they don't feel any real responsibility for it. And of course, every story needs a villain. So let's bring in the Persecutor. But here's the twist. The Persecutor isn't always some person with a handlebar mustache, you know? It can be your boss, sure, but it can also be a tough job market, or maybe most powerful of all, it can be that critical inner voice telling you you're just not good enough. And finally, rounding out our cast, we have the Rescuer, the hero who swoops in to save the day. But their help comes with a major catch. By constantly solving the victim's problems, they accidentally end up reinforcing the idea that the victim can't save themselves. So they might break the cycle for a moment, but they basically guarantee it's going to happen all over again tomorrow. So what does it actually feel like to be living inside the story, to be caught in this trap? Let's zoom in a little bit and look at it from the main character's point of view. You know, psychologists actually have a term for when this feeling becomes a huge part of who someone is. It's called the tendency for interpersonal victimhood, or TIV. This is the point where I'm a victim stops being just a temporary feeling after a bad day and becomes more of a permanent personality trait. It's the lens through which you see every single relationship you have. In that mindset, it's often filled with the same kind of thought bubbles over and over. A constant focus on everything that's going wrong, a deep belief that everyone else has it so much easier, a real talent for blaming anyone and anything else. But the real key, the heart of it, is that feeling of powerlessness, the belief that you're just a pinball being knocked around by life. And this is the plot twist, isn't it? I mean, if being the victim feels so awful, why would anyone choose to keep playing that part? Why not just flip the script? Well, because, and this is a big because, unconsciously, there are some hidden perks to being the hero of a tragedy. There are these secret payoffs that, in a weird way, make all the misery feel worth it. Psychologists have a name for this too. They call it secondary gain. Think about it. Playing the poor me card gets you sympathy, it gets you attention. It's also a fantastic excuse for not taking responsibility or facing really difficult challenges. And there's even this strange sense of moral high ground you get, a kind of glory in being the one who's always suffering so nobly. And there's another little psychological trick going on here, and it's called resentment. You know that old fable about the fox who can't reach the grapes? Well, instead of just admitting he failed, he decides, they were probably sour anyway. It's a defense mechanism. It protects our ego by convincing us that the things we want but feel we can't get, well, they weren't that great to begin with. But here we are. We've reached the climax of our story. This is that crucial moment where our main character faces a choice, a fundamental choice between two different identities, two completely different ways of being in the world. On one side, you have the victim identity. It's defined by that feeling of powerlessness and the constant question, why me? But on the other side, you have the agency identity. It's all about empowerment and asking a different question, what now? Look, this isn't about pretending bad things don't happen. They do. It's about deciding if your identity is going to be rooted in that injury or in your capacity to grow from it. So, how do you do it? How do you make that leap? How do you grab the pen from the writer and start rewriting your own story? Let's break down the escape plan. The very first step is to figure out where your script even came from. For a lot of people, these roles are learned way back in childhood. Let's look at a quick origin story, a case study about a guy named Peter. See, Peter literally grew up inside the drama triangle. His mother was the classic victim, a drama queen who seemed to be the author of her own misery. His father was an abusive persecutor. So it's not a huge surprise that Peter grew up and, without even realizing it, recreated this exact same dynamic in his own life, constantly switching between the roles of victim, victimizer, and rescuer. He was living out a story that he didn't even know he'd been taught to write. So here it is, the 3-step escape plan. Step 1, you have to acknowledge the pain. You can't just skip over the real hurt, the real injustice. Honor it. Step 2, reframe the story. There's this great idea that between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose. That is where your agency lives. And finally, step 3, reclaim responsibility. And let's be clear, this is not about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing that you are the author of what happens next. And that brings us to our final panel. The ultimate takeaway, the big idea, is this quote from Carl Jung. "I am not what has happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Your past informs you, of course, but it doesn't have to imprison you. You get to decide what happens in the next chapter. You are the author. So what story are you going to choose to write?